If you have ever dated someone who is jealous and possessive and tends to have pretty unpredictable anger and mood swings, then you know how nerve-wracking it can be to even consider potentially trying to break up with this person, because most likely you have no idea how they might react or respond. This brings up a really important conversation that most people are never thinking about, and that's safety planning during a breakup. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 tips to break up safely. If you find this type of information helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, if it's not just helpful to you, share it with someone you know that it might be helpful for. All right, let's dive into it. Tip number 1, choose when and where wisely. When you're getting ready to have this breakup conversation, it's important not to pick a location that's private with just you and your partner. You want to pick a location that is public or even semi-public where there's other people around. You might even consider picking a location where there's a friend or a family member or a loved one nearby. And to be extra safe, you might even consider doing the breakup on FaceTime. This is to avoid any potential risks that they might lash out or act out in a way that's volatile and leaves you in a position of being unsafe. At the same time, it's also really important to let someone know that this breakup conversation is happening. So, for example, letting someone know the when, the time, the where. This way, they know when to kind of reasonably expect to hear back from you, or they can take a moment to check in. So, that's your first piece of advice. Choose when and where wisely. Tip number 2, change your usual routines. There's a good chance that your partner knows your life, your schedules, your typical routines, your routes home, and for a little while, it's really important just to change those up. So, for example, if they know that you have a usual location every Wednesday after work with your friends, a favorite coffee shop every Saturday morning, Thursday 5 p.m. yoga class, just for a little while, change these things up. This also includes the routes that you might take to walk home, bike home, drive home, or even changing the time of day that you get home. This again is just to avoid any unnecessary confrontation or conflict or risks. So for a little while, change up those usual routines. Tip number 3, practice online safety. If you used to share your location with your partner before, take some time to make sure that you are not sharing your location with them anywhere. And also for a little while, just don't share your location. So be really aware of not posting your whereabouts online, checking in places in real time where your partner might see it. And this can even extend to things like your stories or posting live videos where the background might be recognizable and your ex-partner might show up. So for a little while, just make sure you're being really, really safe and not posting your whereabouts online. Tip number 4, notify key people. Think about the individuals in your life that should be aware that the breakup has happened and that your partner should not be coming around. So, for example, I used to work in a restaurant and I had to tell both my manager and the hostess that my partner should not be showing up, calling the restaurant asking for me, seeing when my schedule is, when I'm working, or lingering around the property. So who in your life should be aware of the breakup? Maybe it's also a work situation. Maybe you have children and you have to let the school know that your ex should not be going by or picking them up. So just notify the few key people that you think should know about this, and you can gently and kindly ask them to keep this semi-confidential. Again, this is to avoid unnecessary confrontation. Tip number 5. This one might sound pretty obvious, but most people don't do it because they don't think they have to, and that is to change your locks. Change things like your car keys if you can. I know it's a pain in the butt, but if you're worried, it's worth the precaution. Change the locks to your house. And also think about other access points and entryways where they might be able to contact you. So for example, maybe you typically leave your back slider door unlocked and they're aware of this. Make sure you take those precautions to lock that back door. So really just think about any other potential ways that they might access you or even show up unannounced or show up and surprise you when you get home. These things do happen, and taking these precautions can be life-saving. And tip number 6, of course, there are always legal protective orders. And depending on where you live, this will go by different names. It might be a restraining order, a no harassment order, a no contact order. And these are legal orders from courts that spell out the requirements and the guidelines that your ex might not be able to contact you, that they can't get within a certain distance from you. And some people might argue that this is just a piece of paper and doesn't guarantee anything. And while, of course, that's always true, these can also be a really good deterrent too. Because if these orders are broken, there are then legal consequences. So know that there's always other avenues just to provide that extra added layer of safety and really a feeling of just ease on your end too. So those are my 6 tips, and I would also encourage every single person watching to also look up your local resources too. The tips that I've shared in this video are super helpful, and as I've kind of already mentioned, they can be life-saving. These are things that I was not aware of. I've shared a little bit of my story here on YouTube, and I did break up with my abusive partner, thought that I could handle it, didn't think there were any risks. And unfortunately, 2 weeks later, he showed up unannounced and I was physically harmed by him. So, it's really important to think about these things ahead of time and at least take those extra precautions. But no matter who you are and no matter where you live, it's important to know that in every community, there are agencies and individuals that specialize in safety planning. So there are people that you can talk to that will ask you tons of questions about your life, your schedule, your unique circumstances, and they can help come up with a custom safety plan specific to you. So make sure that you look up those organizations. They tend to go by names like domestic violence organization, domestic violence agency. They essentially deal with anyone who thinks they might be in an abusive dynamic. And these agencies are entirely free. So you can get free guidance and free support. All right, if you have any questions or comments, definitely drop them below. I will try to respond to all of them as quickly as I possibly can. But like I said up top, if you find this content helpful, like, subscribe, stay with me on this channel. I'm committed to creating more videos like this. Year-round, I travel the US. I'm a full-time speaker on these topics. However, being on the stage is great, but I'm only reaching so many people, and I want to reach and help even more people on these topics here. As I often tend to say, these issues are huge. No one's talking about them. Why is no one talking about them? So my goal on this channel is to talk about these issues. If I can help you in any other way, if you have topics you want me to cover, make sure you let me know, send me a message. All of my information is linked below this video. Otherwise, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.